come back to this figure here. We spoke to the OECD earlier today, specifically to Angel Gurria. He was saying that we're just entering a recovery. We're not even sort of anywhere near halfway there yet.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, certainly if you look at the European figures, we're slowly climbing out of the pit. But the likes of Germany seem to be doing quite well, even Spain doing remarkably well, I think, given the circumstances. But France and Italy appear to be struggling, and I think that's an indication of the fragility which still lies at the heart of the Eurozone recovery. And if we were to get some kind of a shock, then I'm sure that would have a major adverse impact upon the Eurozone picture.
Sure. And Peter, you've always been concerned about this. Are you more worried now that there's still this divergence?
Well, I think it's becoming more visible as the economies recover, because it's quite clear that many economies are recovering. But the two that I've just mentioned, France and Italy, clearly, they're just trundling along, and I think there's no real sense of urgency there to put in place the reforms that many of the other countries have already done. And I think that's going to mean that over time these countries will underperform, and it will obviously act to curb the Eurozone, given their importance at the heart of the system.
The other thing that the OECD said today was basically China. They're not that concerned about China because they think that China's nimble enough to cope with any of the excess liquidity issues they might come across. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I kind of do. I mean, I don't know about nimble, but certainly the Chinese economy is a very different animal, I think, to the ones that most of us look at in the industrialized West. It's largely a state-financed, state-backed economy, to be quite frank. And when we talk about bubbles in the Chinese economy, what we're talking about is bubbles in the Chinese state-sponsored banking system, which the state can eliminate if it wants to, and inflate if it so chooses. So I think perhaps we're getting all a bit too carried away about the problems facing China. I think it will continue to perform quite well, but I don't expect any major crash anytime soon.
And perhaps any data that we see showing overinvestment in China is just a form of catching up, right?
Oh, I quite agree. I mean, if you look at things like capital stock per head of population, in China it's still way below levels that we're seeing in the United States and indeed in other industrialized economies. So yes, there is overinvestment, and I think there's an awful lot of waste of productive investment there, but I don't think it's the kind of boom-popping capital stock enhancing investment that we might expect to see.